Hey guys, it's Vandy back in our Carpet Vanguard DZ set 8 deck profile. So if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and subscribe. This time we're covering the final deck of DZ set 8, which is Solrairon Mask. Yeah, you would think that because it's Solrairon that I have like some tie to this deck because I chose to end it on Solrairon. No, it's just the fact that I kind of used all of my other decks that I really liked in the first 2 weeks, and then I didn't really think about it afterwards. So yeah, I guess we're ending this one on Solrairon, boys. Let's get this one started because honestly, Solrairon did get some good cards. It still feels iffy with the mask, but the mask feels more consistent in the deck. First today we have our ride deck crest. It's our energy generator. You may only have ride deck crest in your ride deck. Auto ride deck, when you ride, put this card into your crest zone. If you win second, get to energy charge 3. Continuous, you have to 10 energy, and on the beginning of your ride phase, energy charge 3. And act once per turn, energy plus 7, draw a card. On pretty solid, you get a free 3 energy every turn. If you win second, you get an extra 3 on top of that. And then if you at any point in the game have 7 or more energy, you can blast away 7 of it to draw a card to help increase your hand, which is really great for comeback scenarios. In this deck, there is a card in the deck that uses energy as a resource for its skill, which allows us to get to mask very easily. However, if you don't draw that card or you need that draw more than you need the ability to get to mask, the option to energy boss 7 is there for you. As for our starter, it's Sage of Horoscope B Siron. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, auto, roll upon for your second draw card, standard starter, and down special free draw if he goes second. You make this any starter you want. None of the ride line requires Siron. I just choose to make it Siron because A, he honestly looks really cool to me. I like the color of his like Pope shirt, I forgot what it's called, and then like just his staff, and not to mention the fact that it kind of fits the theme of the deck, and I always like running the canonical ride lines, so whether he's needed or not, I choose to run Siron as my ride deck grade 0. As for our Overtrigger, we have True Arbitrator Dragon of 100 Swords Duravassal, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power, Overtrigger, you remember trigger in your deck, reveal it as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose what means, give a plus 1 million for the turn, and reveal it during your drive check, activate its dish effect, which until end of the turn, you can also perform drive checks with the battle as your rear guard attack. So cool, whether you drive check the damage check this, someone's getting a million and you do get a draw, but if you drove check this, your rear guards can now swing for drive checks, which is really powerful because depending on what line you end up with this deck, you could have somewhere between 4 drive checks in a turn, or you could end up with 6 drive checks in a turn because sometimes you do have to call a grade 3 to rear guard and just pressure down your opponent and get a bunch of extra hand cards. So even if your opponent does live through your turn, at least you'll have extra hand cards to defend yourself with during their turn. You can make this Volna to add more multi-attacking to the deck, or Sporia for recycling, or even the Dark Overtrigger to also add more multi-attack with heal as well. But I choose to make it Durv also because I like running the Nation over triggers, so it's the over trigger for me. As for our normal triggers, we have a total of 3 front, 3 of them being Bard of Heavenly Song and Alpac. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, continuous guard circle, every opponent's vanguards are grade 3, grade up 5,000 to the shield. So she's a 20k shield once the opponent hits grade 3. She's also a front trigger, so it helps increase the number of the front rows, especially in a multi-attack deck that can get somewhere between 4 and 5 attacks every single turn. Being able to up the numbers of the front row when you're stacking your drive checks is very great, so I like having 3 copies of Alpac there. You don't really need draws because you mainly draw into the important stuff you need, so you'd only use draws to add more defensive power to your hand, but I rather have like just the inherent offense power of the front. Followed by a total of 8 crit, 4 of them being White Fang Witch Disma, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. You can make this any crit you want. I just chose to make it Disma because when Solrairon first came out, I copied the deck from Hexa Orb because Solrairon was pretty much male Hexa Orb, so I just chose to copy Hexa Orb's trigger lineup. Followed by 4 copies of Blade Feather Dragon, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 4k base, critical trigger, auto rear guard, and by the boosted Shove of the Soul, choose what means give 2k for the turn, and that 2k most of the time won't make the difference. Sometimes, depending on the situation, it will, but mainly only use it to send it to Soul because this deck can possibly run into a Soul problem depending on what card you see and what card you don't see. So I like having a total of 8 crit for the overall pressure, 3 front to add more numbers to the front row during the multi-attack season, and finally 4 copies of Circling Sorceress, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k base. You can make any heal you want. I just chose to make it Circling Sorceress because, like I said, for Disma, I copied this deck straight from Hexa Orb, and this was Hexa Orb's heal at the time, so for Circling Sorceress. As for our normal units, starting off with our grade 1s, we have 2 copies of Preserve Wizard, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, a new card for Solrairon, so auto rear guard when it boosts. If a normal unit was revealed by the ability of Vanguard Solrairon in the card name this turn, this unit gets 5,000 power for the battle, and at the end of the battle, you may return this card to your hand. Pretty solid, it's nothing too flashy, but guaranteed once you flip a normal unit by the Vanguard's ability, and you'll pretty much always flip a normal unit by the Vanguard's ability, he'll get plus 5,000 power, and you can bounce him back to your hand, which means you'll have an extra 5k shield while also being able to be a little bit more aggro with Preserve Wizard. Not a bad grade 1 at all to have in the deck. It's a 13k that allows you to recycle a 5k shield out of it, and most of the time you are going to flip a normal unit. The only time you win it is if you see a trigger at the top of your deck, and most of the time specifically the over trigger, because most of the time your normal unit abilities are what activates every other skill. So to a Preserve Wizard, you can technically make this any card you want, but I chose to make a Preserve Wizard because I do like having that offensive pressure with him, but also being able to be a little bit defensive with him. As for our next grade 1, we have 3 copies of Dragon Tree Offshoot Digu, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. One of my favorite design grade 1 because I like his armor because he's like a gold paladin, and then I like his little thighs stabber things here. They're just really cool in terms of like color-wise. Anyways, Autoapon placed on rearguard circle other than during the battle phase. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 guard with Solrairon or Grifflegate in the card name, Soul Blast 1 and check the top 7 for either up to 1 Solrairon card or up to 1 Mask of Hedrogram, discard it, shuffle the deck, and then you can look at the top card of your deck and put it to the top or bottom. All pretty solid because that ability procs off regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard's at, and it allows you to proc it off regardless if you're on regular Solrairon or Mask Solrairon, because then it's top 7 search, you to Solrairon into drop zone, which basically fills up mass cost, but it also deck clinch for you, and then it has the potential to leave a trigger at the top of your deck, and if you don't want to leave a trigger there, well, you can just put the card to bottom, or if you want to like use Solrairon skill to then reveal a normal unit because maybe it's a normal unit at the top, there you go. Aron Digu is an amazing grade 1 because for only 1 Soul Blast, not only does he deck thin for you, which could end up leading you to a superior ride if you send the Mask of Hedrogram to drop zone, but he also deck stacks for you, so you don't have to waste other resources trying to guarantee the next card's either a normal unit or a trigger unit. All around, Digu is a really great grade 1. If you want to tech him down to 2, you can, but I like having him at 3 of because it allows me to see him more consistently. Considering literally the only downside to him is that he just doesn't proc during the battle phase, but you don't need him to proc during the battle phase because typically when you're doing your deck stacking during the battle phase, you more or less know what the next 2 cards are going to be, so 3 of Digu. Next up, we have 3 copies of Academic of Endeavoring Evol, pretty much the best grade 1 in the deck to immediately trigger an attack and allows you to rebuild your board against a board nuke deck so easily. Grade 1 boost 5k shield, AK base, auto and place on rearguard circle. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 guard with Solrairon in the card name, counterbalance 1 and check the top 5 cards of your deck and choose up to 2 grade 3 less unit cards from among them, call them to rearguard circle and shuffle the deck, and if you call 2 or more, choose a card from your hand, reveal it, and put it to the top of your deck if it's a normal unit, discard if it's not. All around, that's an incredible ability because for only 1 CB, it gets you 1 to 2 rear guards. If you place 1 rear guard, you don't lose anything, and if you do place 2 rear guards, you deck stack the top card with a normal unit, or you just straight up discard a card if you think that your next card's a trigger, so that way you can end up guaranteeing that you'll get Solrairon's ability off. Aron Evol is amazing because when you're playing against a non-board nuke deck, this you only really need to use it once, and it just gets you board presence out the wazoo. But if you're playing against a board nuke deck, this card can turn your losing situation into a winning one so easily because you can have 0 rear guards, play Evol, and then if you call 2 cards, you'll automatically have 3 of your 5 rear guard circles filled up. And the best part is because his ability forces you to put a card from your hand, if you have no hand cards because maybe you threw everything onto board before you did this skill, you don't have to put anything on top, which I mean is kind of risky if you're trying to guarantee Solrairon skill, but at the very least, you don't have to lose that card. So Aron Evol, very great grade 1, get you rear guards to board, you either put nothing on top if you called 1, or you put something on top if you called 2, and he does it all for a simple CB regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard's at, or also allowing you to do a deck stack, so easy 3 for me in Evol. Next up, we have 4 copies of Paladinium Z Dragon, grade 1 boost 0 silt, 6k base, continuous Septon or 4 Sentinels in deck and all put on guard circle, choose a units it cannot be to battle, if your hands 2 more cards, and choose a card from hand and discard it. Standard PG, nothing too special about it because that means if this only 1 or cards in your hand, place it on guard circle, you don't have to discard, great, because that means you can be super aggressive in the early game, mainly only spam Preserve Wizard, you want to keep Evol obviously until you're at grade 3, Digu you can choose to use early if you want to just for an AK body, but then when your opponent does eventually counterattack you for being super aggressive, throw down Paladinium Z Dragon, give him the middle finger, you'll be good to go. Aron is a very solid PG to have because it allows you to be aggressive and still have that defensive power in your hand. You can choose to make this H-Smire Dragon or Keflon instead of Paladinium Z Dragon because the exact same effect as Paladinium Z Dragon, though just to make a Paladinium Z Dragon because it came out close to the time of Solrairon's release. Then we have our last grade 1 in the deck, one of in the ride deck, none in the main deck, of Sage of Elixir Aron, grade 1 boost 5k shield, AK base, auto and Autoapon by Sage of Robust Storagon. You can declare either normal unit or trigger unit and reveal the top card of your deck. If you revealed a card you declared, you may put it to your hand, and if you did not put it into your hand, put the revealed card into your soul or back on top. Pretty much always, no matter what, declare normal unit. Because when you do reveal that card, if it is a normal unit, it goes to your hand and maybe you have an extra attacker. If it's a trigger unit, it goes back on top. You always want to declare normal unit because that guarantees you'll either get a hand card or it guarantees a trigger. Or it guarantees a Mask of Hedrogram, either or. And then auto and place on rearguard circle. If you have a Vanguard Solrairon in the card name, choose up to 1 normal unit from your hand and reveal it. If you revealed a card, draw a card and put the revealed card at the top of your deck. So pretty much you swap 1 hand card with the top card of your deck, which could, most of the time when I do it, that's end up being a critical trigger. Specifically Blade Feather for some reason, but you put a card to the top of your deck to basically guarantee Solrairon skill, and then you also put a card to the top of your deck to guarantee call targets for Solrairon skill. The preferred target is this, but most of the time I'm either putting Evol or I'm putting a Solrairon Mask at the top of the deck that's basically guaranteed drive checks, I guess, because those are the only 2 cards ever in my hand for some reason. So Aron being able to stack the top card for you is great, and she doing it for free just by being placed on rearguard circle. And also the fact that she allows you to basically either guarantee a trigger or guarantee a hand card when she's Autoapon is great. You don't need her in the main deck because the grade 2 does call her from Soul, so you don't need to worry about having main deck copies of her to use the second ability. So we only like to have her as one of in the ride deck because our other grade 1s, well, board presence, deck stack in a different way, and allows you to recycle 5k shield. So one of in the ride deck of Aron. As for our grade 2s, we have 4 copies of Academic of Automation Lectures, grade 2 Intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto rearguard at the moment of the attack. If a normal unit was revealed by the ability of your Vanguard Sorrairon in the turn, put this unit into your soul and countercharge 1, and if this unit was placed on rearguard circle from your deck during this turn, you may draw a card. All around pretty solid because again, like I said before, most of your abilities proc off when Sorrairon reveals a normal unit, so using stuff like Elrond to stack the top card, Evol to stack the top card, Digu to stack the top card, etc., you can then guarantee the normal unit, use Sorrairon skill. Now this ability is active, so that at the end of this battle, Lectures goes to Soul and countercharges you one for free, which is great in a somewhat CB heavy deck. But also, if you end up calling him to rearguard from deck this turn, either via Solrairon or by Evol, you can then draw a card, and it's a May clause, so you don't have to draw if you don't want to, if you're afraid of decking out, or you think you're going to draw a trigger. Our Lectures is very great, grade 2. It opens up rearguard circles to multi-attack more consistently, get you Soul, get you countercharge, and get you hand cards. What's not about it? Easy 4 of. Next up, we have 4 copies of our Masques Searcher, Dragon Tree Wretch Pegasus Dysach, grade 2 Intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto when placed on rearguard circle, area entry boss 3, and search your deck for up to 1 Mask of Hedrogram, reveal it, put it to hand, shuffle your deck. So, for free, placed by anywhere, by any means, it gets you a Mask of Hedrogram. Pretty solid. And then act rearguard, counter boss 1, and bind itself. Choose one of your rearguard circles without a Dragon Tree marker on it, and put a Dragon Tree marker on that circle. Then check the top 7 cards of your deck and choose up to 1 card with either Mask or Griffle in its card name from among them. Reveal it, put it to hand, and shuffle your deck. And when you look at the deck by this ability, if your bind zone has 1 or less copies of this in the same card name, check all your cards instead of just the top 7. Pretty solid, because the thing with Pegasus Dysach is that pretty much on the first search, it guarantees you grab either another copy of Mask of Hedrogram, which you don't need, or mainly Great Sage of Soul Solrairon, and this thing already guarantees you the mask from its first skill, basically guaranteeing you that on your first grade 3 turn, you can go into Solrairon Mask if you so desired. All around pretty solid because it gets you a mask for free without costing CB or Soul, and then by just paying a CB, which you can proc while you're on grade 2, mind you, so if your opponent's playing a board new deck and you know Pegasus is going to die before the next turn, you can just bind your Pegasus and then just get your markers out when you're at grade 2, which yes, lowers your number of attacks and does eat into your CB a little bit, but on the bright side, it sets you up for the next turn. Not a bad grade 2 at all. Get you deck thin, get you markers for a relatively cheap cost, and basically guarantees you'll always be able to go into the mask. It's a very solid 4 of in this deck for me. Next up, we have 4 copies of our newest support card, Ada Light Angel, grade 2 Intercept 5k shield, 10k base, a much better way to guarantee multi-attack than the previous Solrairon grade 2. All will place on rearguard circle during your battle phase. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 grade of Solrairon, regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard's at, counter boss 1, choose from your rearguard standard. All around pretty solid because Solrairon Mask for multi-attack based on how many Dragon Tree markers you have on your board. So if you only have 1, you're only going to be getting 4 attacks. This card, if it's the card you call by Solrairon Mask, guarantees you will have the 5th attack, regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard at, just by calling this out to rearguard in a deck that can stack it to the top is pretty great. And then continues rearguard circle. If a normal unit is revealed by the ability of your Vanguard for Solrairon in the card name, this unit gets 5,000 power. Again, as long as the normal unit is revealed at any point during the turn with Solrairon in its card name, you can end up giving this thing a 15k base, which is really good for all around swingy. And if you're on Great Mage of Skull Solrairon Mask, you'll be able to get another 5k from the Dragon Tree marker. All around makes for really good offensive pressure, allowing for multi-attack, and being just a good like beat stick in general, just having the good consistency with the deck. And it works for both OG Solrairon and new Solrairon as well, so in case you don't end up seeing the Mask of Hedrogram for whatever reason, or you don't think it's worth going into Solrairon Mask for whatever reason, you can always use Aegis Light Angel, so I like having it as a 4 of in this deck. Next up, we have our last grade 2 in the deck, one of in the red deck, and then the main deck of Sage of Robust Strogon, grade 2 Intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto and Autoapon by unit Solrairon in the card name. Choose a Sage of Elixir Elrond from your soul and call that card and this card to rearguard circle. They can be in same column, they can be in same row, it doesn't really matter as long as they're both called. And then auto rearguard when a normal unit is revealed by the ability of Vanguard Solrairon in the card name, this unit gets auto rearguard at the end of your battle that this unit attacked. Retire this unit countercharge 1 to end of turn. So this is the only one that has to be present on board when the reveal happens. Everyone else can proc as long as the reveal happened at some point during the turn. Strogon has to be on the board for that to happen, but on the bright side, at the end of his battle, he opens up rearguard circles, therefore you can call units to that circle via Solrairon's ability, and it also gets you countercharge, basically guaranteeing Solrairon's skill. All around, very solid grade 2. You don't need any copies of this in the main deck because again, we have a better countercharger in the form of Lectures, we have a Searcher in the form of Pegasus, and then we have a really good reset in the form of Aegis Light. So being able to call itself is great and allows us to have no copies of it in the main deck, but still maintain a 1 copy in the right deck as an extra countercharger. As for grade 3s, we start off with 3 copies of Mask of Hedrogram. You only need 3 copies because Pegasus exists. Grade 3, normal order, check the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 unit card with Dragon Tree or Mask in its card name from among them, reveal it, put it to hand, shuffle your deck. So that's its order ability, so once per turn you can play this and then you can get a card from the top 5. So you're either going to get Pegasus, which basically allows you to get another one. You could get Digu, who could get you a second one into drop zone, or at least deck stack for you, or it can get you your Solrairon Mask, who can automatically turn into a Persona Ride, because the second ability is Act Drop Zone. If your Vanguards are grade 3 without Mask in the card name, reveal a grade 3 card with Mask in this card name from your hand, and write the revealed card for this cost as stand, and if you road, put this card into your soul, and your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 greater, and you do not Persona Ride this turn, activate Persona Ride. So cool. In a already deck that can do 4 to 5 attacks a turn, this gets you a Persona Ride, does it for free, it gets you an extra soul card on top of it, so you can soul blast it out via Digu, and it kind of can guarantee itself, because if you hit a Solrairon Mask out the top 5, there you go. Most of the time when I use this, I don't, because somehow all of my Solrairon Masks flock to my hand on their own for some reason, but I will never understand that. Either way, Mask of Hedrogram is a very solid 3 of, because it gets you, whether it's your Dragon Tree support cards or your Solrairon Mask itself, this will be able to get it to your hand, and it can automatically trigger a Persona Ride on its own, or at least a superior ride that can proc off while your opponent's out grade 2, and possibly get multi-attack galore on them, so easily 3 of for me. Then we have our grade 3 normal units, first up starting with 4 copies in the main deck, because you can't put in the ride deck, of Great Sage of Shoal Solrairon Mask. I mean, you could, but you wouldn't be able to ride it. So grade 3 to 9% at 13k base. Continuous, this card can only be written from a grade 3 card Solrairon in the card name, so you can only place on top of a Solrairon card, you can't place on top of anything else. Active Vanguard once per turn, energy blast 3 and reveal a normal unit from your hand to draw a card and put the revealed card for the cost of the top of your deck. That is a very solid ability, because the issue with OG Solrairon is that he couldn't do his skill on his own, like he needed other units to stack the deck for him. This unit, as long as you do have a normal unit in your hand, can stack the deck for himself to guarantee his skill, which is good. And then act Vanguard once per turn by removing a card Solrairon in this different card name from this unit from your hand, soul or drop zone. A fun fact I learned, that doesn't actually count bind zones. So if your opponent's playing a card that can bind your units, it actually bypasses the mask skill. I figured that out when I was playing against the mask deck and I was using bind cards. You can declare either a normal unit or trigger unit and reveal the top card of your deck. And if you revealed the type you declared, this unit gets auto Vanguard once per turn. When a unit placed by this unit's ability attacks this turn, until the end of the battle, increase or decrease its drive to 1 and perform drive checks at the end of the turn. So cool, it's a way to guarantee drive checks for your rear guards, all for the cost of removing a Solrairon, which is obviously going to be this one, and you can end up soul blasting out via something like Digu, which is very solid, just so you're not like wasting cost or wasting soul. And then auto Vanguard, when this unit attacks, counterblast 1, check the top 3 cards of your deck, choose the same number of cards as the number of Dragon Tree markers from among them, call into rear guard circle, and put the rest on the top or bottom of the deck in any order. Honor pretty solid, because all of his abilities can proc regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard's at, so you can get drive checks and 4 to 5 attacks all while your opponent's at grade 2. And the best part about this ability is that regardless if you have Dragon Tree markers or not, you can just CB1 to stack the top 3 cards of your deck, because that's honestly what I do half the time. Like if I break and I don't see Pegasus, I would just swing with Solrairon Mask anyways, counterblast 1 and check the top 3, and I'll just like rearrange them if they're triggers, and if they're not triggers, well, they go to bottom. And this is kind of your way to guarantee the over, because this ability isn't mandatory if you don't want to use it, the Solrairon give drive check ability. So instead what you can do is, if you see the over triggers in the top 3 cards, you just choose to call a unit, you don't give it the skill, and then you just guarantee what you're going to get the triggers anyways with the over trigger. And then if you end up calling something like Solrairon Mask, well, it didn't lose drive checks, and therefore drive checks are going to continue. All around Solrairon Mask, very solid grade 3. Deck stacks for you for only 3 energy, which you get every single turn as long as you have normal in hand. Not to mention the fact that it can give your rear guards drive checks by being placed, and it can get you multi-attack that also deck stacks the top few cards of your deck, all while doing it while your opponent's possibly at grade 2. Very amazing grade 3, great overall consistency and offensive pressure, and it adds a lot to the deck, so it's an easy 4 of. And as for our last card of the deck, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the red deck, of honestly a card I feel like was slept on, because the same set that he came out, Gandiva came out, and then we all know how Gandiva turned out, and that is Great Sage of Heavenly Laws Solrairon. Grade 3 to 9% 13k base, auto Vanguard at the beginning of your battle phase. By soul blasting 1, you declare either a normal or a trigger unit and reveal the top card of your deck. If you reveal a card you declared, this unit contains Vanguard, all your units get 5,000 power till end of turn. Simple soul blast, either give your entire board half a Persona Ride, or you whiff that skill. Again, this deck, like the turn you ride this, you are guaranteed to know what the top card of your deck is, because Elrond exists over here, but still being able to stack the top card is good. And then auto Vanguard, when it attacks into anything, counterblast 1, check the top 2, choose a card from among them, call to rear guard circle, discard it, and put the rest on top or bottom. So unfortunately, that one forces you to call something compared to Solrairon Mask, who technically forces you to call nothing. But being able to stack your top cards and get multi-attack is great. Again, Aegislight Angel does proc off with OG Solrairon as well. And the main thing to keep a note about his 5k ability is that if you are in a situation where you can't stack the top card and you want to decide which situation is best for you to call the top card, depending on who's on your board, declare a normie. You always want to declare a normie unit unless you have none of your like really good normie declarers on board. Like if you don't have lectures, if you don't have Aegislight Angel, like declare normal unit if you have any of those on your board, because that will allow you to guarantee to get all of your skills up if you do hit the ability. If you don't, well, you don't. Or if you don't have any of them on your board, just declare trigger unit, because you're hoping for a trigger at that point, and then then you're just going to get the 5k to board if you get lucky enough. So very solid grade 3, adds 5k to the entire board just by simply guessing what the top card is, which again you can guarantee. It does it regardless of what grade your opponent's Vanguard's at. So if you just like full on aggro your opponent, you could beat them down in that same turn. And then not to mention the fact that he does allow for multi-attack, albeit it does require a Dislike to actually make it 5 attacks, but can still do multi-attack and can still stack the top card of your deck. So it's a very easy 3 of in the main deck and 1 of in the ride deck for great saves with Solrairon Heavenly Law, because you either use him as a normal Vanguard or use him as fodder for Solrairon Masques, but he's still a very solid grade 3 to have on Vanguard if you need him. And then we have 4 copies of Dragon Tree Marker. In this deck, you can only have 4 Dragon Tree Markers because we only have 4 copies of Pegasus Disaltage, and there's no way to recall it back. So during your turn, if your Vanguard is a Dragon Tree or Mask on the card name, all your units on the circle get 5,000 power. So it increases your units' power by 5,000. So pretty much this Solrairon gives all your units the Dragon Tree Marker if you end up getting the call right. But being able to increase your Dragon Tree Markers for Solrairon Mask call skill, but also give units power from multi-attack is solid as well. So we have 4 of them. And without further ado, that's it for this one. Hope all of you guys enjoyed. Honestly, this deck is much more fun to play than I first thought it was when it first came out, because I personally didn't like Solrairon a lot either, and then I was kind of iffy when the mask came out, but honestly, being able to get multi-attack like the way it does, have basically consistently 5 attacks, have an amazing resource grade 2, have an amazing like line of grade 1s in general for whatever they want to do, and same for the grade 2s, not to mention the fact basically having a grade 3 that guarantees you a really good triple drive, and then possibly your damage check for the next turn, along with a supporting grade 3 who, if worst case scenario you're stuck on, it can still do something useful for the deck, makes it pretty solid. So without further ado, I'm going to spin here. Hope all of you guys enjoyed. This was the deck profile for DZ Set 8, so I will see you all in the Festival Collection DZ Set deck profiles, which is actually going to come out very soon. So I'll see you all then. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us on Twitch, and don't forget to set up your Vanguards.